this Harris refusal 24 days in as becoming the presidential nominee for the Democrat Party and refusing to do a press conference. At best, we have got now answers from her communications people that at some point in August, she will schedule a press conference. That does not mean she will do a press conference in August, but that she will have a press conference scheduled sometime in August, and that'll get on the calendar. We also know she's only agreed to one debate, even though President Trump has agreed to do 3 debates. One of those, I think the first one is in September. I guess most would be in September, October. But she's really only willing to go to one of those so far, which is another opportunity for people in the press to, ask you questions, not just a candidate versus candidate. But I think also at the end of the day, she's in this position where does she want to make the shift from Biden to where we hear the Harris policies? Now, she doesn't have to just carry the weight of the Biden administration. She's now the lead going into this election. So we should know what are the Harris policies and how are they different. Of course, that would be pretty normal at this point. It's not like speaking to the press is the number one most important thing that a presidential candidate has to do. But certainly you've got to be able to get your message across in different ways. So you host events, rallies, you host town halls where you take questions from American voters. And then you, of course, take questions from the press. Usually the questions from the press are the more deep policy questions, whether it's on the economy or foreign affairs. But a lot of those issues, if you think about, Harris has not really spoken about as vice president. And we don't know yet how involved she has been until now in any of those kind of discussions, which is kind of an interesting opportunity. It does, maybe create a little bit of a weird situation at the White House, but she has an opportunity to, if she wasn't that involved, to explain that to the American people. That, look, I've got some differences from President Biden, and now that I am the nominee, I'm going to start walking through those with you and can do that with the press when it comes to foreign policy, when it comes to domestic policy. But if you don't do that and you just go to rallies and just rah, 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 and it's just kind of the same speech over and over and over again, it doesn't really give the American people the feeling that you've got a command of the issues and are ready to actually govern. Now, we have seen this strategy kind of work when Joe Biden just spent his time, in the Delaware basement. But what he did when he was in the Delaware basement was do TV interviews. That's basically what he did was did as many as he could every day. So he was, in effect, because he wouldn't go on the road, he was out on your TVs at least, taking questions, including tough questions on policy. So it is taking her by just doing political rallies. You get to control those in every step of those, the way. You get a speechwriter, gets to go over a speech multiple times. You get it on a prompter. You get to practice doing it off that prompter. You know how many people are going to be there. You know where to look. You know how to go on stage. You know who's going to get the crowd pumped up. You know who's speaking before you. You know the theming. And so you're pretty confident going in, and you don't have to come up with any words on your own. But in an actual press conference, while you can be prepped for the big issues, and it's not hard to figure out what those are, you do have to talk off the cuff.
That's right. And now it's been 24 days since she emerged as the presumptive nominee, and she's not done a single sit-down interview, not done a single press conference. She did do a rope line kind of as she got off the airplane. Some reporters yelled questions, and what their questions were are, when are you going to do a press conference? And that's when she said, hope to have one scheduled by the end of the month. So she's really not had any scrutiny. And this goes into the whole narrative that many people have been concerned about with the way that she was then made the standard bearer of the party when President Biden decided to drop out of the race, is that she's never faced scrutiny. She faced a little bit of scrutiny in 2020 when she ran for president and she dropped out of the race before Iowa. So she never got votes. Right. Now she had got to skip the entire primary process where there's a lot of scrutiny on you, and is now avoiding more scrutiny as the nominee of the Democrat Party. But I think we should play for people.
Yeah, you've got to see this.
This is John Berman on CNN talking to Adrienne Elrod, who is a senior spokesperson. She was the senior advisor and senior spokesperson for the Biden campaign, is a carryover. But let's watch this exchange between John Berman on CNN, of all places, with this spokesperson for the Harris-Walz campaign.
The reason I was asking about today is because it seems like she has time, if she wanted, to do an interview with a member of the media or do a news conference, correct? There does appear to be that time if she wanted.
Well, look, she has said on the campaign trail that she would be doing an interview at some point. She said that, I think, last week during a rope line or when she was talking to reporters. But look, what is important here, John, is that she is taking her message directly to the American people. She hit a number of battleground states. I think we had 15,000 people in Detroit last week, 12 to 13,000 in Nevada. She's been taking her message to the voters and drawing large crowds. So she's actually having those direct conversations.
But not today. All I'm saying is not today. She could do an interview today, I would think, because she's not out there today.
Well, look, she's taking her message directly to voters, and just because she doesn't have an interview scheduled on her public schedule doesn't mean that she's not taking her message directly to voters about how she's going to improve their lives, how she's going to protect their economic freedoms, how she's going to expand their rights as Americans, in contrast to Trump and J.D. Vance, who simply want to enact the Project 2025 agenda, which would just set America back dramatically.
There you go. It's just filibustering, right? So she's going to do a speech. She traveled the country, so she was very busy a week ago. She did an event, Monday, and she will do an event Friday, but events are not press conferences. And again, the media here, they clamored to get rid of Joe Biden. Now they've got Harris. They have made her out to be the savior of the Democrat Party, and yet she is unwilling to spend time with those who are boosting her. And I guess my question, and Will, we could maybe have time to take a call right now, is do you think the media will actually turn any more than that, or do you think that's about as tough as they're going to get, which is just talking to random spokespeople right now, most of which were on the Biden campaign, who are just going to push to the same thing? Because we can play you an interview later in the broadcast, later in the day on CNN, different host, different communication, spokesperson, senior from her campaign, almost word for word. The exact same response. I mean, that's obviously their strategy right now. We've also heard some, just behind the scenes, how much prep goes into getting her ready for even non-public events when she's meeting with like donors in Georgetown and places like that. I mean, that the prep is just unbelievable. And I mean, is it that awkward to go and sit down when you are the Vice President of the United States and the presidential candidate for one of the two major parties? It's going to be you or the other guy are going to be president of the United States. You would think that would carry enough weight to go into any meeting or press conference and feel pretty confident in what you're going to say and being able to answer the questions the way you want to, especially if you are going to try and distance yourself from any of the policies of Joe Biden, some of which he put on her because he knew they would be the most difficult and unpopular with his party, so immigration, and also unpopular nationally, especially with moderates and independents and conservatives because their border policies have been failing.
That's right. And I think we shouldn't give the media too much credit for actually asking for this, because I think what they're feeling is maybe some betrayal because they carried the water for Kamala Harris to be able to become the nominee by all of a sudden turning on Joe Biden after the debate, after for the longest time saying nothing to see here. He's great. Everyone that comes from the White House tells us he's more fit than ever. But that's the problem, is that the media today, it almost feels like they aren't allowed to report on things until they're given the okay by the White House or by the administration. We saw that last night when New York Times sent out a breaking news tweet. Hunter Biden sought U.S. assistance for a potentially lucrative Burisma project in Italy while his father was vice president, records show. Something I'm pretty sure all of us knew for a long time, have been complaining about. New York Times just now feels okay to report on it. Why? In their article, they say because the White House, after Joe Biden stopped running, released the records. they're not reporting anymore.
No.
They're waiting for talking points from the administration. Right. And that's probably why it's making the reporters' jobs harder, because they're not getting the talking points from Kamala Harris.
It doesn't. I mean, it matters in the sense of course, what they did to President Trump, and of course, trying to label him with Ukraine or him with Russia. But what it doesn't matter anymore is that Biden's not going to be on the ticket. His policies are, but his son, all that. Harris doesn't really have to answer to that. She could quickly move forward past that. So the Democrats have taken that off the table, and so the New York Times says, "Oh, we could spill it all out." And I have a feeling that because he's on his way out, that Hunter Biden's not going to have to worry about any of these charges, because his one-term president father could easily issue those pardons there, and there's no other offices he's going to be holding in the future. Let me just tell you all this. Right now at the ACLJ, we know that the Massachusetts, we showed it yesterday to you, is funding that massive media blitz, spreading state-sponsored lies and misinformation about what they call anti-abortion centers. It's a mass deception, and it's unconstitutional. Our Life and Liberty Drive was created for cases just like this. So we want you to have your gift doubled now at aclj.org. You responded awesome yesterday, and we need another great response like that, because we're preparing to file lawsuits against the government and the abortion industry that are smearing pro-life centers as soon as Monday. A lawsuit. That's not like FOIA. That's an actual lawsuit. But we're also going to launch a huge counter campaign in an unprecedented and groundbreaking effort to combat the mass deception, help women, and save babies. But here's the thing. The size of that campaign will directly relate to how much financial support we have to spend on it. So go to aclj.org. You can go to Mass Deception to make sure your donation is going to that counter campaign. That's aclj.org/mass deception, or just go to our website, donate now.